Okay, can you all hear me? We'll go back to the landfills and what pollution they cause because we don't want to waste any time. This is a landfill again, and this landfill causes pollution to the air because it releases toxic gases. It destroys the soil because of the chemicals it contains. You cannot farm anything after a landfill, and it also causes pollution to any nearby river because any chemicals and nitrates is going to be washed off to the nearby river and also cause spread of disease and eutrophication. So this is another picture of a landfill. I think you can understand what a landfill is by now, and there's nothing good about it. Now, another form of pollution is overharvesting. And again, the pictures speak for themselves. Overharvesting, and the typical example is overfishing. If you overharvest or overhunt or overfish, you are going to greatly reduce biodiversity and increase the number of the animals that you are harvesting or fishing or hunting. And this is going to drastically affect the environment and the food chain. So this is an example of over-harvesting. If you do that, you will greatly decrease the number of fish found in the sea. So this is going to result in a reduction in the number of species to the point that this species might even become extinct. And this is going to reduce biodiversity. So this is an example of over-harvesting. This is a form of pollution. This is over-harvesting. If you fish this amount of fish every month or every week, this is going to greatly affect the population of fish and the food in the future and the biodiversity and a lot of things. Okay, now there's another type of pollution that is called extensive livestock. And again, you have a picture here that shows you that you are taking care of thousands and hundreds of cows. This is called extensive livestock. Now, why do we do that? Of course, we are taking care of hundreds and hundreds of cows because this is food, because this is profitable, because cows gives us food, meat, milk. Their skin is used to make bags and shoes, and we use their oils and we use everything in a cow. And this is very profitable. But this causes a lot of disadvantages to the environment. Now, what is what are the pollution, the disadvantages that is caused by extensive livestock? Of course, number one, having a farm with hundreds and hundreds of cows is very expensive. It needs lots of maintenance. And there's a very high chance for the spread of disease between those cows. Also, here we have to cut down lots of trees in order to create space for all those cows. And this is deforestation with all its consequences. We have to use lots of chemicals in order to prevent the disease spread. And these chemicals will cause lots of pollution. Something else, these animals, they release lots of wastes, lots of feces, lots of urine, and this will become decayed and release methane. And they do lots of respiration and release lots of CO2. So these cows produce lots of waste products. These waste products will decay, they will decompose, and decomposition releases methane gas. Also, these cows, the hundreds and hundreds of cows, they respire like any animal and they release lots of CO2, increasing the CO2 concentrations in the air that will cause global warming. Something else that we took in the lesson, drugs. Can you remember what is the relation between extensive livestock and the lesson drugs? We use lots of what with those cows, even though they're not sick. Who remembers?
Antibiotics.
Very good. We use lots of antibiotics on those cows, even though those cows are not sick. Then why do we use them?
To prevent
If
them from getting diseases.
From getting the disease.
Exactly. We use them just to be on the safe side, which is actually very pathetic. We use them to be sure that they will not become sick. And because we overuse lots of antibiotics, this is going to create antibiotic resistance. And this is a big story and a big disadvantage. So this is another form of pollution that we do to our earth, which is extensive livestock production. We have here many cows or sheep or livestock, and these are the disadvantages. And you don't have to memorize all 12, but at least half of it. Number one, we have to cut down lots of trees to create space. This is deforestation with all its consequences. And its consequences means less trees, less photosynthesis, more CO2 gas, global warming. It's a greenhouse gas. Something else. And with lots of deforestation, we have a decrease in biodiversity. decrease in genetic variation between species, a decrease in plants and animals. And because we're cutting down on so much plants, this can cause extinction to the plants and their associated animals. We need lots of water to keep those animals clean, to make them drink and to wash them. We need lots of water. Also, these cattle hooves, these are the hooves, in case you don't know, these cattle are very heavy and they destroy the soil. The upper layer of the soil will be destroyed by their hooves. These are their hooves, their feet. So we cannot use this land to grow crops in the future. Also, they produce lots of feces and lots of urine and lots of waste products, and these can be washed into a nearby river, again causing eutrophication because these wastes contain lots of nitrates, and the sequence of events will happen. These nitrates will lead to the overgrowth of algae, and the algae overgrowth will lead to an algae boom. It will block the sun, the plants will die, they will decompose, oxygen levels will become reduced, fish will die, so they also cause eutrophication. Also, livestock can help in the spread of disease. And they eat so much grass and their overgrazing it will decrease the number of producers or the grass. And they have increased demand for energy, need lots of electricity to run those farms. So all these are disadvantages of having a farm that has lots of livestock. Of course, we do this for profitable reasons, for money, but they greatly affect our environment. Okay. Now, again, this is livestock. Disadvantages of giving livestock antibiotics. We already mentioned that we will create antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria, and then the antibiotic will not become effective, and we have to look for new antibiotics and etc. etc. So if you notice, this lesson is actually very easy and it's very logic and it's easy to study. And the questions over this lesson are too many. You will realize this for yourself. Now, how do we pollute our waters? We pollute our waters in so many ways. We are very creative in the pollution of our waters. Number one, we overuse fertilizers. And I think now you know too much fertilizer, what does it do? Fertilizers, when you come to discuss fertilizers, you need to mention those key points. Fertilizers are very soluble. They will be washed away by the rainwater and easily leach out, okay, into nearby rivers or lakes, and they will cause eutrophication. And you will mention the story of eutrophication. These fertilizers, again, contain lots of nitrates. These nitrates will result in the overgrowth of algae, and the algae is going to block the sun. And then when there is no sun, the plants will die. The plants, when they die, they will decompose. When they decompose, we will reduce the oxygen levels. Very low oxygen levels will kill the fish. And now we have no plants and no fish and no river, and we have only a green algae river that is highly polluted. Okay? Now, also something else, fertilizers, sometimes when you use too much fertilizers, it will actually kill the plant itself. Why is that? Because now the soil will become very concentrated with fertilizers, and this is going to cause the water to move out of the plant into the soil by osmosis. Think about it. When you have very concentrated soil, this is the soil that is filled with fertilizers and it is too concentrated. The water potential inside the plant will be higher than the water potential outside the plant. And this is going to make the water move out of the plant by osmosis. And the plants will actually die from too much fertilizers. So fertilizers are not good if you overuse them. Another method of water pollution is throwing sewage. And we also talked about sewage many, many times. Sewage causes two things, eutrophication and causes spread of disease. I don't think this is something very pretty, and it makes the water not suitable for drinking. Okay, I don't see anything difficult, but if you see something difficult, please stop me. Sometimes we also throw in our waters chemicals like oil and wastes from factories that contain lots of heavy metals like mercury. And this, of course, will enter our food and we will drink this water and it's going to cause cancer and lots of diseases. And this is going to lead to something called bioaccumulation. And we need to discuss bioaccumulation because it's very important. What is bioaccumulation? Okay, now let me use some pictures to help you. These are microscopic plants and they're called phytoplankton. Okay, what is phytoplankton? This is phytoplankton. These are microscopic plants. The name speaks for itself. This is a plant that is found in the sea and it is microscopic. You need to see it only with a microscope. So these are, again, microscopic plants that do photosynthesis. And they are the base of any food chain. Like any food chain, we start with producers. This phytoplankton is food for smaller fish, and then bigger fish, and then bigger fish, and so on. Let's say we have a river, and we will throw the chemicals in our river. Who will absorb the chemical? The phytoplankton. The phytoplankton will be absorbed. The phytoplankton will absorb the chemicals. Now, these chemicals, the heavy metals, they are not excreted from their bodies. Our bodies are not designed to excrete very heavy metals. So the heavy metal is going to accumulate in the body of the phytoplankton. Who will eat this phytoplankton? The primary consumer, fish number one. Fish number one also contains chemicals in its body. So now fish number one is going to have chemicals in its body, and it's going to take chemicals from the phytoplankton. These chemicals, they remain inside the body and they're not secreted. Fish number one will be eaten by fish number two, the secondary consumer. So the chemicals in the body of the phytoplankton will be transferred to the primary consumer, and then it's going to be transferred to the secondary consumer, and these chemicals will simply accumulate along a food chain because these chemicals are not excreted from the body. You have here heavy metals. Heavy metals, these are chemicals that have been thrown into a river or a sea. These chemicals will be absorbed by the microscopic plants. Who will eat those microscopic plants? The primary consumer, fish number one. So the fish number one, or the primary consumer, is going to take the heavy metals that was found in the body of the phytoplankton. Fish number one will be eaten by fish number two. So fish number two is going to take all the chemicals that was in the body of the phytoplankton and the primary consumer, and it's going to accumulate in its body. So here, what are we saying? We are saying that the chemicals will be transferred along a food chain, and it will be accumulated in the bodies of organisms until they reach the final or the top consumer, which is you, and you will take in a concentrated dose of the chemicals or the poison, and this is going or can cause poisoning and cancer, and can even cause death. And this is bioaccumulation. What is bioaccumulation? Again, the name speaks for itself. It is the accumulation of chemicals or toxic substances in the bodies of organisms as we are moving along a food chain. Let's read the definition together. This is supplement. It's a process by which toxic substances in the bodies of organisms are not excreted. As a result, they are transferred or accumulated along a food chain until they concentrate in the top consumer, and this will cause infertility, poisoning, damage to the central nervous system, and even death to the top consumer. I don't know if you realized, but in one of the years, we were warned through the media not to eat any fish. I don't know if you remember this time or not, because a certain factory released lots of chemicals into the river, and this was absorbed by the fish, and it accumulated along the food chain, and we became poisoned by that fish when we ate it. This was an example of bioaccumulation. Who does not understand what is bioaccumulation? Any questions? I'll repeat it again just in case. Bioaccumulation, from the name, this is when toxins or poisons accumulate in the bodies of living organisms. I have chemicals that have been thrown into the river. This chemical is going to be absorbed by the producers, by the plants in the river, or by the microscopic plants, the phytoplankton. And these chemicals will remain in the body of the producer. It's not going to be excreted because we don't know how to excrete those chemicals. These poisons, they accumulate in our body. The producer is going to be eaten by the primary consumer. So the chemicals will move on from the producer to the primary consumer that already has its own chemicals. The primary consumer will be eaten by the secondary consumer. Now the chemicals are moving along. They're not getting excreted. So these chemicals will be taken in by the producer, and then by the primary consumer, and then by the secondary consumer, and they will accumulate and accumulate and accumulate until they finally concentrate at the top consumer. which is most probably is us humans. So we take a concentrated dose of those chemicals, and this can cause poison or death. This is bioaccumulation, and the definition is very common. This is a process by which toxic substances in the bodies of organisms are not excreted, and as a result, they are transferred along a food chain until they accumulate and concentrate at the top consumer that may cause its death. This is bioaccumulation. Is it clear? Another name for it is biomagnification. Any questions about bioaccumulation? Does anyone has any question? Hello? Yes or no?
Yes, Miss. No.
Okay. Yes, what's your question? So we took three very important terms. Deforestation. I think it's very easy. Deforestation. It's easy, but what's difficult is the list of disadvantages that you have to memorize. Cutting down trees, no photosynthesis, more CO2, soil erosion. We will change our soil into desert, less biodiversity. So it's actually easy, but this question is usually out of 4 or 5 marks. So you need to memorize a lot of things to say. So deforestation is very important. Eutrophication and the sequence of events that happen in eutrophication. I hope it's clear. And bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation. So these are three main objectives that you can be asked essay questions over. Deforestation, what is it and what are the disadvantages? The steps of eutrophication and why does it cause pollution? Bioaccumulation, what happens in bioaccumulation and why is it very harmful? Okay. And livestock production, Just make sure that you understand those terms now and then memorize them later. Livestock production, this is when you have a farm with hundreds of cows and hundreds of sheep. We take care of them because we feed on them and they provide us with lots of money. They're very profitable, but they cause lots of pollution to the environment. And you need to know the pollution caused by livestock. Okay, now let's move on. You'll find that everything else is very logic and very clear. Oil spills. Now, countries that produce oil, they give this oil to other countries and they carry the oil across the sea. Now, if the oil falls into the sea, this is going to happen. This poor bird is trying to get the oil off its feather. And as it is trying to clean itself from the oil, it will swallow the oil. And of course, it's going to kill the bird. So they swallow the oil and this will eventually poison them. This is an oil spill. And of course, this is an example of pollution, very obvious. Now, I think this is also very obvious. And a nuclear bomb, a nuclear fallout, any nuclear bomb or a nuclear leakage from any factory, this radiation stays in the atmosphere and it is carried by the wind and it can stay in the atmosphere for years and years. And of course, it's causing cancer. Very, very dangerous. Now, plastic pollution. Again, very easy. This is pollution caused by plastic. This plastic, it causes a lot of problems because number one, it doesn't break down. It is not biodegradable. This term, you need to know it. It's not biodegradable. Degradable. In other words, it will not be broken down on its own. It's not going to be broken down by nature. It can stay like this in the sea and in the river for years, and it's not going to be broken down. And even when it does break down, it releases chemicals. It releases toxins. It releases small or micro plastics that will be eaten by the aquatic life, and this is going to kill them. Something else, I don't know if you noticed, but this seagull is trying to save his friend because his friend is going to suffocate from this plastic. So the animals, they get trapped in those things and they die, or they swallow them and they die, or those things, they release toxins and poison slowly over years and they die. So plastics are non-biodegradable. They're not broken down by nature and they only cause trouble. This is the problem with plastic pollution. Plastic pollution, always use this word when you are discussing plastics. They don't break down by nature. They are non-biodegradable. Animals will get caught on it, just like the picture, and slowly it breaks down and it releases toxins and poison, and these toxins accumulate in the body of organisms and causes bioaccumulation. Okay, so I think the picture speaks for itself. I think this is very obvious. This can stay there for tens and tens of years and it will not go away on its own. And even if it does, it's going to release lots of toxins and poison and destroy the land and destroy the sea and kill the fish. Nothing is good about it. Now, acid rain. Again, this is something that is well known. We use cars, we release toxic fumes from factories, mainly sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide. These harmful gases, they go to the atmosphere, they dissolve in rainwater, and they make our rain acidic. This acid rain, the name speaks for itself. The rain is acidic. Now, what are the disadvantages of acid rain? It will kill your crops. It will make your rivers very acidic, acidification of your lakes and rivers, and this is going to kill the fish. Something else, people that are sensitive and they have asthma, this is going to increase the risk of asthma attacks in people, and it's going to destroy your buildings, corrosion of stonework, and it will lead to the formation of the black layer that traps more heat called smog, blocking out the sunlight and also causing pollution. So there's nothing good about acid rain. First, we need to know where it comes from. It comes from the release of toxic fumes from combustion, burning fossil fuels from cars, sulfur dioxides, sulfur trioxides. This is going to give you acidic rain, and nothing is good about it. It kills the fish, it kills the plants, it causes asthma, it destroys your buildings. There's a nice picture here causing corrosion of the buildings. Okay? Now, how do we reduce acid rain? Use the metro, don't use your cars. Try to change the source of energy. Instead of using non-renewable sources of energy, you can use renewable sources of energy. This is a common question, by the way. Don't think that it is too easy to be asked. We need to wash our chimneys and factories by something called scrubbers. Scrubbers, these are big, big brushes that they use to wash the chimneys and factories. So we remove this black layer so that it doesn't go out from the atmosphere, and the gas that comes out is clean gas. So we reduce the acid rain. Okay, I assume that as long as you're not asking questions, that everything is clear. So the gas that causes acid rain, you need to memorize the name of this gas. It's called sulfur dioxide. It causes acid rain. It is released due to the burning of fossil fuels, and it causes acidification of the crops and the rivers and asthma attacks, and it destroys your buildings, and nothing is good about it. We did talk about the global warming and the greenhouse effect. I'll say it again quickly. We have an Earth and we have the sun, and the sun is giving out heat. This heat will be absorbed by the Earth, and some of the heat will be reflected. This is normal. Now, when we use lots of cars and release lots of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane and chlorofluorocarbons and lots of very harmful gases, this creates a layer, okay, called the black curtain. And this layer is going to actually trap the sun's heat within the layers of the atmosphere. In other words, the sun is going to release heat energy. We will absorb too much energy, more than what we need, because we have gases in the atmosphere that will keep on absorbing the heat from the sun. And this is going to result in an increase in the average temperature of the Earth, something called global warming and climate change. And this is going to kill plants and kill animals and reduce biodiversity and cause pollution, and is going to cause destruction in a lot of things that we will discuss in a minute. What are the effects of global warming? Here, it's going to melt polar ice caps, causing flooding. It's going to change weather conditions. It's going to reduce the rainfall because our Earth will be warmer and hotter. It's going to cause the extinction of some species that are not used to live in very hot environments. It's going to increase natural disasters such as tropical storms, drought. Drought is what? No rain, very dry environments, high sea levels, floods, and it's going to reduce biodiversity. It's going to increase the temperature of the ocean and killing the fish in the ocean. It will increase in migration of species to new places. Animals will try to find a better place that is not as hot. It will increase the spread of insects and disease. So this is global warming. You need to know what is it, how it happens, and how it affects our environment. Anyone has any questions? Tell me yes or no. Is everything clear?
Everything
Yes.
is clear.
Okay, everything, I hope it's easy. This is drought, showing you very, very dry conditions. And this is our Earth on fire. It's not on fire, but it's just a picture that represents that our Earth became very warm. And this is global warming or climate change. And please memorize these two gases, carbon dioxide and methane. These are two very popular gases that causes global warming. We have the ozone gas that will destroy the ozone layer, and chlorofluorocarbons. You don't have to know this name if it's too long for you. Okay? Now, this is exactly what we explained. If you are asked for the greenhouse effect and how it works or how it results, heat radiation is coming from the sun. It will hit the earth. Some of this radiation will be absorbed. This is normal. But the rest of the radiation should be reflected back. When you have high levels of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, then too much heat is going to be absorbed. And this is going to cause an increase in the average heat temperature or global warming. So please memorize this in case you're asked how global warming happens. Okay, and these are the different gases. You don't have to memorize all of them, but carbon dioxide and methane are very popular, and sulfur dioxide causes acid rain. Good? Now, ozone layer, you don't even need a biology class to tell you that. It's a layer that protects you from the ultraviolet radiations. The ozone layer is going to be destroyed by our bad habits. And when we have a perforation in the ozone layer, then more ultraviolet radiation will reach the earth, and this is going to cause cancer. God forbid. Okay, now this is too easy. This is something that you took in year 5, the different types of energy, the renewable and the non-renewable sources of energy. I'll mention that and then I'll let you go. Renewable sources of energy, these are the energy resources that don't finish, like the wind, like the sea, like the air, like the heat from the earth. These are called renewable, and they're good because they cause no pollution. Okay? Now, the non-renewable, from the name, they finish. And these are the oil and the natural gas and the petrol, and they finish. And the problem with the non-renewable energy resources is that burning them or combustion causes lots of pollution because they release toxic gases and they cause acid rain. And in order to extract them, we need to cut down lots of trees, and we need to do deforestation with all its consequences. Easy? So the renewable are the ones that can be replaced. They don't finish, like the sun and the wind and the hydroelectric, which is water, biomass, which is living organisms or organisms that had just died. For example, if I'm going to burn ashes or burn trees, this is biomass. Geothermal is heat from the earth. Okay? They don't cause pollution. This is the biggest advantage. And the non-renewable, coal, petroleum, natural gas, nuclear energy, fossil fuels, these finish, and we are actually fighting for them, and they cause lots of pollution. Okay. Any questions about them? This is a revision. You have this nice table that talks about all the pollutants and how do they cause pollution. Now let's revise them, and I promise I'll let you go. I can continue tomorrow in class. Sewage, I think you know what sewage is. Sewage is the waste product that comes from homes, and sewage, if it is thrown into the rivers, it causes two things: spread of disease and eutrophication, because it contains nitrates. Good? Now, chemicals. Chemicals, when they are thrown into the river, they will be absorbed by the plants. These plants will be eaten by fish, and these fish will be eaten by other fish. And these chemicals, they are not removed from our bodies, and they accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, leading to a horrible type of pollution known as bioaccumulation. So these are the key terms. Bioaccumulation, when the toxins, heavy metals like mercury, they accumulate in our bodies because they're not broken down, and they accumulate or they concentrate at the top consumers, causing death. Okay? So these are the keywords here. They are marked in yellow. And if you throw rubbish or landfills, pile of rubbish, landfill, of course, this is not nice. You will cause pollution to the air and to the soil and to the nearby river and spread of disease, etc., etc., etc. And plastics are non-biodegradable. Don't forget that term. Plastic is not going to be broken down. It can stay for years and years because it's non-biodegradable. Plastics also, when they do break down, they will release toxins and poison that will accumulate in the bodies of organisms, and this is bioaccumulation. Okay? Fertilizers, they contain lots of nitrates. Fertilizers are soluble, they are washed away by rainwater, and they cause eutrophication. Insecticides and herbicides, these are chemicals. Any chemical accumulates in the bodies of organisms and causes bioaccumulation. And any chemical reduces biodiversity. If I use so much insecticides, I will kill harmful insects and I will also kill useful insects. If I use many herbicides, I will kill the herbs, yes, but I will also kill the plants, reducing biodiversity. Nuclear radiation or nuclear fallout, of course, there's nothing good about it, and it causes cancer. So you don't even need to read the lesson. If you just watch the video, you can immediately go and answer questions. Methane is a greenhouse gas. It causes global warming, and I think we discussed it. Carbon dioxide is another greenhouse gas, and it causes global warming. Okay? It makes the earth very, very hot. Now, I'm going to stop here, and I will discuss this tomorrow in class. Why? Because we talked about all the ways we can pollute our earth. We pollute our earth in very creative ways. Now, tomorrow, what we're going to discuss, we will discuss how can we protect our earth from too much pollution. So we will start from conservation. Who has any questions over what we said today? Is global warming and eutrophication and bioaccumulation and deforestation those big keywords? Are they all clear? Anyone has any questions? Can I have a yes or a no?
No.
Okay. If you have any questions, please read it. If you have any questions, ask me tomorrow. And tomorrow we will finish paper 4, genetic engineering. So get paper 4, we will finish it also in class. Clear? Goodbye.